So this is going to be part 3, and I start by letting you see the roster chart again, and let me emphasize this is the roster chart prepared at the start of the trial, shown to the jurors and allowed by Judge Goss to be printed in the newspapers. So this is something which the whole world saw and has had huge impact on the whole world. Okay, now I'm going to move forward to where I move the slides forward to the point where I talk about some further issues with that chart. As I mentioned, at the end of the trial there were only 24 suspicious events, not 25. This tells us something about the reliability of the information which is contained there. Okay, it's only 1 out of 25, but as we now know, it seems that maybe 5 of those 25 X's in Lucy's column should not be there. She was not present. What is written in the chart about its contents is quite simply not true. And there are a number of errors have been made, and that's aside from the misleading suggestion which it gives. These are not all the suspicious events which have been identified, because Dowie Evans identified a whole lot more in 2 tranches of medical notes. He found suspicious events. Evans, by the way, did not identify the insulin babies, F and L, nor baby K, I believe, which was the example of Ravi Jayaram's virtual eyewitness evidence. Namely, he testified that he virtually saw Lucy Letby attacking a baby, but in fact what he really meant was he didn't see her doing that at all, and he just dreamed that up. And actually we know he dreamed it up. Well, he dreamed up parts of his story. Later he told the police lies about whether or not Lucy had called a doctor, and about the sequence of events leading to that moment, which is indelibly engraved in his memory and will be the stuff of his nightmares for years to come. I think I've talked about the points which are mentioned here already about the statistical investigation not being a statistical investigation, or a statistical investigation by Jane Hunter not being done by order of the Crown Prosecution Service. Statistics just makes people confused. Let's move on. I think I have a whole collection of further statistical facts to mention and discuss. In fact, I've already discussed the question, but it is worth repeating again now. How was the chart compiled? This is the chart was a key part of the prosecution. It had a huge impact on the public. It's the first question a statistician asks when they see such a chart with such a striking statistical correlation suggested by it is who made the chart, how, when. And what we know is that, well, first of all, we know that the defense did ask for a description of the procedure which had been followed to identify suspicious events. And Judge Goss didn't think that was needed. For Judge Goss, a lawyer, there was just a sequence of 25 indictments, and they each concern the medical course of some medical event, and he found that it was perfectly correct, and there was nothing more needed to be done except to go through them one by one and decide on the basis of medical evidence for each one separately whether Letby was guilty of what she was accused of, yes or no. He also refused permission for the court to learn about the RCPCH report or to learn about Lucy Letby's complaint against the consultants. He saw the complaint procedure, which Lucy Letby won, but which event probably tipped the balance and got them running to the police, because they knew things were looking bad for them at that point, likely to be reported to the NMC or GMC, General Medical Council, for some sort of malpractice. And the RCPCH report had a lot to say about their poor running of that neonatal unit. The GOS found all that irrelevant. The complaint, and the complaint was upheld. That was merely an administrative matter. Well, what we know is that the consultants went to the police in a panic. They've said so. And they convinced police in no time that there was a very serious case here for the police to investigate. The police asked them, or the hospital, for medical dossiers of all babies involved in, or the events, all dossiers of the events, suspicious collapses or deaths. Suspicious collapses or deaths, and they could please add to that medical dossiers of all other deaths, which was kind of fattened up the stack of medical dossiers to go through. But it meant that Lucy Letby was a little bit better hidden. But Evans quickly recognized the deaths, which were obviously natural deaths, and chucked them out again, leaving with basically, I suspect, I believe, a collection of cases collected by Breary and in his dossier of his drawer of doom. The files which he kept in his desk drawer, which he never showed to anybody, but referred to as the drawer of doom. And he had suspicions of Lucy Letby from that cluster of events in June 2015. And I suppose he continued to add to that collection right up till and including June 2016 with the last events in the indictment. So I've already said the chart is misleading, it's tautologous, and it's wrong. It's full of errors, and it's misleading. And anyway, it really, strictly speaking, it's superfluous, but it had enormous impact. The thing is that precisely because there is no evidence against Lucy, the prosecution has to make do with the impression that there is a huge amount of evidence against her by charging her with a huge number of crimes, an incredible number. It's quantity instead of quality. There was no quality, so they had to make do with quantity. And that impresses people. People say, no smoke without fire. And she must have done some of them. Well, that's wrong, but that works. That's how people think. Now, let me talk briefly on the bottom two lines here. One nurse is going to be present at the largest number of candidate suspicious event, and if she becomes a suspicious event nurse, she's then going to become a suspicious nurse, and then the events are going to be more likely to be seen and classified as suspicious. So this is the way it goes in miscarriages of justice, serial nurse killer cases. This has happened again and again, and will continue to happen again and again in the future. One particular full-time nurse, who works longer and does extra shifts, is going to be present more often when the nurse is overloaded with high acuity cases. I mean, if there are several such nurses, one of them is just going to be there the most, and that's the one who is going to become the natural candidate killer nurse in an ensuing witch hunt. And I'm going to come to the fact in a moment. I believe that one of the reasons, I think an important reason why Lucy Letby was the one who by completely explainable processes became the evil witch, proof had to be found that she was an evil witch, and then she needed to be burnt. First of all, going back to the spike, one of my statistician friends keeps saying there was no spike, and I have in the last talk already explained why there is a spike if you take account of the fact that we from a statistical point of view, I think there is in the previous talk I've explained why my statistician friend is right. For a subtle statistical point, that was with the moving window stuff, that there's no statistical evidence on its own for a spike. And this was a sort of cheap and easy way to say that there is none. Look more carefully and get into this moving window business. There is just nothing there. A spike of that size is normal, given the background number of events going on. I say there was a spike in acuity of babies on the babies on the unit being cared for in intensive care, especially in the most intensive care part of the NICU. And nurses saw a spike in acuity. Nurses have told Thirlwell, and they told the court that they definitely had the impression that they were caring for babies who were much sicker than in previous years. And there is certainly some good reasons why there could be a spike in acuity. We know that there was changes to the statistical character of the admissions, the babies coming in. Maternity units in North Wales were closed for some time, or degraded in some time. So more high-risk babies, or the mothers of more high-risk babies, were being diverted from North Wales towards England in the direction of the big Liverpool hospitals. In particular, the Liverpool Women's Hospital is a particularly important hospital in this context. But at that time, there were also capacity problems in those hospitals. I believe for some time one unit or ward was closed because of an infection. We know there were big transport problems between hospitals. Very big transport problems. They played a very big role in one of the babies' demise. Mother and the baby should have been immediately shipped to one of the big Liverpool hospitals, and that just didn't happen, and in the meantime everything went wrong. Nina Modi, neonatologist, past president of the Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health, has very clearly stated, and member of the team of experts put together by Shuli, has said absolutely clearly the hospital was caring for many babies which should never have been cared for there. Or at the very least, they should have been very rapidly transferred out of it. And that means more risk to those babies. That means that the ward was fuller than usual with more acutely ill babies, and more deaths is not surprising. So I would say there is a spike in deaths caused by a spike in acuity. Here's some more. Just a kind of random collection of little snippets of statistical or other information. First of all, there is typically a similar or bigger spike in deaths at a maternity unit in the UK every year. Such a spike as the one seen at the Countess of Chester, whether you call it a spike or not, is not unusual. It happens several times. It happens every year, almost every year. Of course, it usually has an explanation. Sometimes it can be chance, but in general there is probably something going on, because things keep changing for all the various reasons which can be imagined for that. So that's one thing. This particular spike was not particularly exciting in terms of size. Another point worth making is a statistical point, is that there are 13 neonatal deaths per day in the UK on average, and actually that's 3 more than one would expect on the basis of reasonable comparisons with other countries. Now, the UK is perhaps not completely, is not comparable in all respects with all developed countries. There's, for instance, a greater income inequality than Sweden, for instance, which has one of the best rates of neonatal deaths per person, per patient, per baby. And you upsize Sweden to the size of England, and then you come out at 10. 3 more on top of 10, that's a large percentage, right? That's 30%. It's big. Part of it could be explained by greater ill health of the mothers, worse care during pregnancy, antenatal care. Many explanations can be found for it. But I would say anyway, such a high rate, for reasons which something needs to be done about, are signs that neonatal care is not good in the UK. Maternity care is not good in the UK, and part of the problem is simply not enough money being put into it. Here's an odd snippet, and that is the number of nurses in prison in the UK is 10 times bigger than the number you would expect if you think of the percentage of the working population who are nurses. Project that percentage on the prison population, and you come up with a much smaller number than the actual number. 10 times smaller. That's strange, and I think it's actually due to the fact that, well, there are two factors here which I think should be taken into account. One is miscarriages of justice. So some of the nurses in UK jails, and I have my guesses, who, Dean, Norris, Chua, Letby, those are the persons I would mention are miscarriages of justice, and that's already a big proportion of nurses in jail. Another point to make this statistic maybe less meaningful is the fact that a killer nurse is probably going to get a long prison term. And if you look at the proportion of people in jail at the moment, it will be overrepresented by those with long terms. They stay longer, so they're more likely to be there at the moment you look. And so the proportion of nurses in the incoming stream of new convicts is not the same as the proportion of nurses when you look later at a particular time point. Okay, I'm going to come back to this one in a moment. First of all, the bottom two, all those twins are multiples, and not just your average twins or multiples or triplet. Many of the twins and the triplet are remarkable twins and triplets that much more than is normal. They are identical twins. The multiple is an identical triplet, and identical twins and triplets are particularly at high risk to special complications such as monochorionicity, which means sharing a placenta. And if 2 or 3 babies share a placenta, there is a very strong high risk of TTTS, twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome, which is that one of the babies is receiving oxygenated blood from one of its siblings, and it's returning the blood for refreshment via one of its siblings. This is going to mean that one of those babies is actually going to have a much worse blood supply than its siblings, and you'll have 2 strong and healthy triplets and 1 small, weak and struggling triplet. These are very rare conditions. They're very dangerous conditions, and they're conditions which are obviously known by obstetricians and gynecologists before birth. So precautions can be made. Those mothers of those twins and multiples should never have given birth at and their babies never nursed at the Countess of Chester. They should have gone for instance, to Liverpool Women's Hospital, which has a special unit improving care of twins and triplets, specializing in twins and triplets. Now, as I've said before a few times, it's written again here, there are 25 events and they only concern 17 babies. And actually, the number of pregnancies or mothers is only 14. Obstetric data of the mothers was not available to trial experts and should have been. And to say something nice about Stephen Breary, he actually did say there needs to be an investigation by a multidisciplinary team of experts, medical experts of all relevant specialisms. And the Royal Statistical Society says the same, and they also point out that a statistician or epidemiologist should be included. And if you want to find out what is the cause of the spike, you should certainly, if there is a spike and if it has a cause, you certainly should need a statistician or epidemiologist. Dowie Evans told the police asked Dowie Evans if he thought that they would need more experts of different specialisms, and he told them that he could manage perfectly well on his own. And only later, when the insulin cases came in, did they actually recruit some experts in that particular field. That's a very specialistic field. And of course, they probably did ask him for who he would recommend to peer review what he had done, and I no doubt that he was the one who suggests Sandy Bohin to them. Don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. Would not be surprised at all. Right, yes, but what about this one? These numbers may be off by one or so, but let's just take them as they are for the moment. There were 13 deaths in a neonatal intensive care unit in the period of interest. Lucy was present when 10 of them happened. Of course, yet more during the shift before, but I'm going to focus on the fact which is often mentioned on Twitter and elsewhere on social media. Lucy was present at almost all of the deaths on the neonatal intensive care unit. Okay, well, Dowie Evans knew this too, and he actually did a statistical calculation. He used slightly different numbers from what I'm using, because he used 12 out of 13 instead of 10 out of 13. He added the times when she was there, the shift after a death. He took account of the number of shifts she worked, the number of shifts she didn't work, and I have no reason to disbelieve them, though it's a little bit odd. The total number of shifts seems to be from June 2015 to June 2016 inclusive, with an extra week added. I don't know which week he added or why. Or did he do calculations wrong? Or have I made a mistake? He did the Fisher exact test, which is the standard test which a statistician would do. And even Dowie Evans knows it, apparently. He did a computation, and he came out with something. Well, he got even a worse number than this one. But when I do the test, I get 16 in a million. This is statistically extraordinarily significant. And of course it should be distrusted, because we are doing this statistical test because we see these numbers. So of course we find something very striking from the superficially from the statistical point of view, but I think it is clear that there is something going on there, and I'll now explain what I think it was. Oops, here. And that is quite simple. A full-time intensive care nurse, neonatal intensive care nurse, who works longer and does many extra shifts, is going to be present more often when the unit is particularly full of high acuity cases. Now, there is no evidence any baby was deliberately harmed by anybody, and no strong evidence. There's no indisputable evidence any baby was deliberately harmed. No indisputable evidence that she ever did anything deliberately to harm a baby. None whatsoever. And this is entirely, and those two facts are entirely consistent with innocence. And this presumably is the explanation. And if we had the requisite data, we could test my hypothesis by proper statistical analysis. And what we need is the burden of care in the high dependency part of the NICU at shift level in time, not aggregate data. We need data at the level of hour to hour, or half day to half day, shift to shift. How severely ill are the babies presently in the intensive care unit and in the part of the intensive care unit where they're most likely to die? And if we had baby level data, we could find out if that could be the explanation for Lucy's presence so often when a baby died. I'm certain that there is such an innocent explanation. I mean, if she's there so often when a baby died, but nobody ever saw her do a thing, I don't believe she's guilty. Nobody ever saw her doing a thing, and there's no medical proof any baby was actually harmed deliberately by anybody. So she's innocent, and so this could be the explanation for this particular anomalous, apparently this striking piece of statistical information. It surely has a natural explanation. Okay, a few more little things. Let me see what happens next. Yeah, this is the last thing I say before I finish this part, the third part. And here's a list of the known twins and multiples in the case. And what I want to mention here is that there are also some which you had not heard about, didn't know were multiples or twins. J was the survivor of a twin. There was a twin pregnancy, and J's sibling died in utero after 24 weeks. So I don't know whether it died or or its life was terminated, but and I don't know whether the body of the fetus was removed then or if it came out later. But here's another twin pregnancy, J. And there's another one like that, Q, the one at the end. Seems to be just a single baby, but Q is the survivor. And Q went on to survive of a twin pregnancy, whereby Q's sibling had died later than 24 weeks in the pregnancy, and we had not heard about that. It's maybe, I don't know if it was known. I don't know if it was told to the court. But anyway, the twins are multiples. There are more of them than you see at first sight, and indeed 10 of the 17 indictment babies are twins and multiples, if I have counted correctly, and that's getting on for 2/3. That's tremendously many. Of course, the prosecution was aware that there were all those twins and multiples in the case, and they came up with some stupid psychological explanation that Lucy had special interest in killing twins and triplets. I mean, this is totally crazy. They really just had to make a mountain out of molehills. They had to turn a heap of broken crockery into a convincing case, and they did that by simply interpreting anything that they'd found and everything that they'd found in a sinister way, and they managed to carry that over to the jury, transmit that to the jury. And of course, as we know, well, we don't know for sure, but the jury decided fastest concerning the two insulin babies. So those were the two verdicts which the jury was able to make very, very fast, very fast. And this talk is about not going to be about insulin matters, so I'm not going to go into them so much. But remember that Goss finally, in the retrial for baby K, told the jury that since they knew from the first trial that Lucy Letby was a killer, a murderer, they didn't need much more evidence to come to the right conclusion concerning baby K. So Judge Goss is actually a Bayesian, because the reasoning is in some sense correct. They should not have been certain that the other babies were murdered, but they were told a lot of untruths about about everything in the case. So the verdict of the jury was not too surprising. All right, now I'm going to finish this one. In the next talk, I'm going to move into Bayesian statistics, or really not statistics, but probability reasoning, Bayes' theorem, and I'm going to explain why I am close to certain, for practical purposes, I'm certain that Lucy Letby is utterly and completely innocent. So now I'm going to stop this one. Oh, wrong button, this one. Stop recording.